My daughter-in-law shared a TikTok clip where she declared, "My mother-in-law doesn't contribute a thing these days. It's her responsibility to handle the household and the children." She chuckled while viewers praised her candor. I simply grinned and shut down the app. I resolved to deliver a memorable lesson. Upon her return home, she was stunned by the sight before her. I never imagined it would conclude this way, that at 68 years old, with palms marked by 40 years of diligent labor, I'd be perched in my living room within my own home, observing countless outsiders mocking me. The afternoon of that Thursday lingers vividly. I recall the warm cinnamon aroma from the fresh coffee I'd prepared, the chirping of birds on the porch. I'd completed my usual deep clean of the entire place and paused briefly in my favorite recliner, the one I acquired 2 decades back, its deep blue hue intact from my careful upkeep, cherished as finely as fine fabric. I reached for my smartphone. Far from the stereotype of tech-illiterate seniors, I'd mastered it through online guides and chats with my neighbor Gladys. I'd explored TikTok thanks to my granddaughter Kyla, who guided me in browsing cooking ideas and feline clips, innocent diversions that brought joy. Yet that particular day, the feed unveiled an unexpected gem. There appeared Jasmine's face, my daughter-in-law's, beaming at the lens with a grin I'd once believed sincere. She donned a pink top I'd gifted her for her birthday. The clip opened with an upbeat melody and her addressing the audience head-on. "Ever wonder the perks of a mother-in-law?" she teased in a playful lilt, arching her brows like she held the punchline of the century. My pulse remained steady, unaware. "I don't lift a finger at home anymore," she added, and my gut twisted sharply. The shot shifted. It captured my kitchen, the very one where moments earlier I'd scrubbed the remnants of their morning meal. From behind, I was glimpsed in my long-standing yellow floral apron, evoking memories of my late husband, Richard. "The mother-in-law has no other pursuits," Jasmine quipped derisively. "Thus, her role is to manage the chores and youngsters. Seriously, what alternative does she have? Lounging with the remote all day." Her giggle echoed, one familiar from gatherings and lazy Sundays, but now it rang harsh and biting. The remarks flooded in, countless. "Ha ha. Spot on, that's Grandma's purpose. Slay it, queen. Make the elders pull their weight. Totally. Gotta justify your spot." A quiet fracture hit me internally, not a theatrical ache, but subtler, more devastating, like the silent split of a cherished heirloom saucer, barely audible, yet leaving irreparable fragments on the ground. My fingers shook, gripping the device. 63,000 approvals, 800 replies, myriad reposts. I'd become the day's diversion for hordes of unfamiliar faces who knew nothing of me, of my identity, my achievements, my forfeitures, my offerings. I exited the app, but the scene burned into my thoughts, my essence. Rising from the chair, my limbs supported me, though the floor felt spongy beneath. In the kitchen, I filled a tumbler with water from the set I'd chosen near 50 years ago on my wedding day. I sipped deliberately, steadying my breath. From the direction of Jasmine and my son Ethan's room came their amusement. She was displaying the clip to him. Her tone carried over, "Check it out, honey. It's surpassing 50,000 hearts already. Folks get it, right?" Then the harshest blow followed. My son's response, my Ethan, the child I'd cradled through his father's passing when doubters claimed I'd falter as a solo parent. The youth I'd ferried across 2 buses daily to class, sans a vehicle. The groom I'd embraced at his nuptials, vowing he'd always find refuge here. "Yeah, Jassy, spot on. Mom's getting up there anyway. What more could she manage?" Their shared merriment followed. At that instant, tears held back. No outburst, no destruction. Just a faint, serene curve to my lips, emerging from an uncharted inner reserve. For in that flash, amid their chuckles and the persistent alerts buzzing on my still clutched phone, clarity dawned, a shift that would transform it all. I'd been excessively accommodating, excessively subdued, excessively present. I'd mistaken affection for erasure, and that era was drawing to a close. I replayed the footage, absorbing each taunt, each sneer, each barb branding me a freeloader or a load. As it played, my thoughts sharpened, for Jasmine had committed her gravest error yet. She had no clue whom she provoked. She overlooked that the home she navigated with such entitlement belonged to someone, and that someone was no fragile figure. It wasn't some fragile or broken lady. No, it was me, Ruthie Mae Jakes, and I was ready to show everyone exactly who had raised these very walls. I silenced my phone, removed my apron, grabbed a fresh mug of coffee, and began strategizing. After all, in my 68 years on this earth, one truth stood out. Victories don't come from yelling. They emerge from careful thought, patient timing, and striking precisely when the opportunity strikes. And my chance was drawing near. That evening, sleep evaded me entirely. I rested in my tiny bedroom, the smallest in the home, overlooking the alley instead of the garden, gazing upward at the ceiling as the sounds of Ethan and Jasmine's snores drifted from the main suite, the room that had belonged to me for 3 decades, the one I'd surrendered so they could enjoy greater ease. As always, I stirred at 4 a.m., my body running on its built-in rhythm that required no wake-up call. I slipped into my robe, worn thin at the sleeves, yet spotless, and stepped into the rear yard. The morning chill hung in the air, carrying the scent of moist soil despite the lack of recent showers. I settled onto the sturdy concrete seat beside the lemon tree, the one I'd set in the ground when Ethan was just 5, and now it bore fruits the size of clenched hands. In that pre-dawn hush, pierced only by the faint glow of the streetlight, I allowed the recollections to surface, for I had to relive them. I required that personal legacy to restore the resolve that seemed to be fading away. I purchased this property back in 1988. Let me state it again for emphasis. I acquired it using my own funds and labor. At 28, I just laid Richard to rest. Stomach cancer had claimed him swiftly, 4 months from the doctor's verdict to his final breath, his grip on my hand tight as if to carry part of me along. Suddenly, I faced life solo with Ethan, a toddler of 3 who still pleaded for his father each bedtime, with 0 savings and no kin to lean on. My folks were gone, and Richard's relatives vanished the moment they saw no fortune to claim. Folks advised me, liquidate it all, Ruthie Mae. Head home to your roots. Wed someone who will provide for you. I'd nod politely and silently vow I'd sooner perish. I landed work at the textile plant in the rundown industrial zone, clocking in from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. There, I attached pockets to blue jeans, hitting 500 daily. My fingertips oozed blood in those initial weeks until tough skin formed, numbing me to the pricks of the needles. Yet that barely covered basics, so I picked up a second gig. Evenings from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I scrubbed suites in a city center skyscraper. Ethan tagged along. I'd park him on a seat with his coloring tools and storybooks while I scrubbed pathways, cleared waste bins, and buffed surfaces where executives charted big moves. Rest came in snatches, 4 hours at best, often just 3. Sundays and Saturdays, I hawked my home-baked sweet potato tarts and crispy poultry meals, whipped up in the wee hours of Friday. I'd haul them in a large ice chest to the parish fair. Ethan joined in the calls. Fresh meals. Grab your tart and fowl right now. Each cent went straight into a tin container stashed beneath my mattress. No indulgences, no fresh outfits, no evenings out. Just toil. Just hoarding. All for the vision of a secure spot where my boy could thrive. It demanded 5 years. 5 years of rising in the dark and collapsing after daylight returned. 5 years of witnessing Ethan mature with minimal presence from me, shuttled amid plants and towers, surviving on chili-packed lunches, dozing on loaned seats. Finally, in 1993, as Ethan hit 8, I inked the ownership papers for this abode. It started modest. 2 sleeping quarters, a single bath, an emerged kitchen living area. Fissures marred the walls. Torrents seeped through the roof during storms. Tiles lay cracked on the ground. No garden, merely a barren spot overrun with scrub. But ownership was mine. Tears streamed down my face the instant I held those keys, so fiercely that Ethan fretted and wrapped his arms around me, whispering, "No tears, Mama. Things will turn out fine now." From there, I set about restoring it. I laid the bath flooring single-handedly, studying guides in the local library, seeking tips from nearby masons. I sourced bargain supplies and fitted them through my efforts alone. I nicked my skin. I scorched myself on the mortar blend. My spine throbbed for days on end, yet the outcome shone. I coated the interiors in soft pale yellow to invite the sunshine. I set the lemon sapling. I placed crimson geranium planters at the front. I crafted the solid bench holding me that very instant. When Ethan reached 15, our outdoor space flourished completely. We hosted his celebration party out there. 30 guests joined us, tunes played, ribs sizzled on the grill, and I baked the German chocolate treat from my grandma's formula. That evening, my boy embraced me and murmured, "Thanks for this haven, Mother. One day I'll look after you the way you did for me." I held those sentiments deep within. Once Ethan graduated high school, I enlarged the place. I secured a bank advance and added 2 extra rooms, one his, one mine. I linked them via a corridor for his independence. I equipped him with a dedicated storage area. I carved out my own corner. "For the time you bring your spouse back here," I teased. He chuckled. "Mom, you'll forever reign as the queen of this place." I cleared that debt in just 3 years, pulling extra shifts without a single gripe, all for my boy, for the life ahead. Ethan pursued business management at City College. I covered his textbooks, his transit costs, his meals. I took on house cleaning gigs every weekend so he could focus on school without juggling a job. He earned top honors at graduation. We shed tears side by side that day. He presented me with a bunch of yellow blooms, my go-to favorites, and announced to his peers, "These come from my mom. She's why I'm up here today." I felt like the most triumphant woman alive. A couple of years on, he crossed paths with Jasmine. She held a front desk role at the company where Ethan landed his initial position. She came across as attractive, warm, articulate. I warmed to her immediately. When Ethan shared their engagement news, I embraced her and declared, "Join the family, dear. This home belongs to you as well." I spoke from the heart. We hosted their ceremony right in the rear garden. Funds were tight for a fancy hall, but we transformed it into something lovely. Strings of lights draped over branches, setups with crisp white linens I stitched by hand, dishes whipped up alongside the folks next door. Jasmine teared up in joy. She squeezed me tight and whispered, "Thanks, Mom-in-law. Ethan's blessed with a parent like you." After their getaway, a brief 3-day escape to a coastal spot in South Carolina that I funded, I suggested they crash here while building savings for their spot. "Won't be permanent," Ethan assured. "Only till we scrape together a deposit for an apartment." "Stay as long as it takes," I responded, and I handed over the main suite, my former space, complete with the spacious wardrobe, the view to the garden, the ensuite bath I'd toiled to install. "You're both starting out young. Claim your area," I explained, shifting my belongings to the tiny spare. Ethan objected. Jasmine chimed in. "No need for that, Mom-in-law." Yet I pushed back, true to form. I offer everything. I step aside. I shrink myself down to lift others up. Then Kyla arrived, followed by Samuel. I stepped into the role of devoted grandma around the clock. I minded the little ones during Jasmine's shifts. I washed them, nourished them, guided their schoolwork. I'd rise at odd hours for their whimpers, letting their folks rest. Sleep doesn't come deep for me regardless. I'd handle the tidying, prepare meals for all, launder clothes, press Ethan's work attire, and stock the pantry using my pension checks. Since I consume far less these days, I sought no payback. I uttered no gripes, convinced that defined affection. Yet perched on that seat at dawn's early light, the morning after that dreadful clip surfaced, a truth hit me like a fracture down the middle. I'd faded into the background in my very own dwelling, not from age or irrelevance, but from pouring out so freely that I ceased to matter as an individual. I turned into a role, a utility, the lady who scrubs, simmers pots, and supervises the young, and the cruelest twist, I permitted it. Daylight crept in. Songbirds chirped from the citrus tree. I caught the sound of Ethan's door swinging shut, steps heading to the lavatory. I brushed off the moisture streaming down my face, unaware till then. My fingers grazed the home's exterior, cool, sturdy, truly mine. Each stone bore my labors, every slab my sacrifices, every nook my legacy, and nobody, not a soul, would strip that from me. Least of all one who'd never crafted a thing from scratch. I rose from the seat, squared my shoulders, and drew in a steadying lungful. Conflict loomed, though I first had to grasp the battlefield. I held off till mealtime. I fixed up smothered chops and cornmeal mush, Ethan's childhood staple, laced with pulled poultry, rich sauce, and soft curd. I arranged the spread with care. Spotless dishware, neatly tucked linens, vibrant citrus nectar, and the crystal jug passed down from my own mother. Jasmine descended solo at first. She sported plush satin sleepwear worth more than $75. I'd glimpsed the bill in her tote, her locks tied in a sleek tail. She appeared refreshed, glowing. "Good morning, Mom-in-law," she cooed in that lilting tone that struck me now as utterly phony. I held my response, simply eyeing her while filling her go-to cup, the patterned one she'd picked out, off limits to the rest, with brew. "Jasmine," I uttered at last, steady as stone, "we must discuss something." She glanced from her screen since she hadn't paused her scrolling to acknowledge me. "Sure, what's on your mind?" Her delivery rang casual, detached. "I viewed your clip." The quiet that descended weighed like lead, shifting the room's very atmosphere. Jasmine fluttered her lids. Once. Again. A shaky giggle escaped her. "Oh, Mom-in-law, which video do you mean?" "The TikTok bit where you claim it's my job to handle the chores and the youngsters, because that's all I fill my days with." Her cheeks flushed crimson, yet the emotion flickering in her gaze wasn't embarrassment. It was irritation. Irritation at being exposed. "Oh, come on, you're blowing it out of proportion. It was merely a prank." She rose to refill her coffee, pivoting away from me. Folks knew it was all in good fun, 63,000 viewers chuckling along. "That hardly screams joke to me, Jasmine." Footsteps echoed from the staircase. Ethan descending. He sported the sleepwear I'd gifted him last Christmas, his locks tousled and unkempt. Exhaustion clung to him. I get how demanding his job is, but one glance at my expression, and he sensed the tension. "What's the issue here?" he inquired, glancing from me to her and back. Jasmine beat me to the punch, sidling up to him with that wounded puppy expression I'd come to spot instantly. "Your mom's upset over a clip I shared online, sweetie, but seriously, it was lighthearted stuff. The TikTok crowd gets it's all for entertainment value. No one's supposed to take it to heart." Ethan met my eyes, and what I glimpsed there stung worse than a barrage of viral posts. Uncertainty. He questioned my side. "Mom, which clip is she referring to?" I pulled out my phone, fingers quivering just a bit, though I steadied them. I launched TikTok and pulled up Jasmine's account. The footage lingered, now boasting 92,000 approvals. I held it out for him. Ethan viewed it fully, his gaze tracking the visuals, scanning the remarks, his features shifting from intrigue to unease. Then he uttered words that cut deeper than any barb. "Mom, you're probably making too big a deal out of this." It hit me like a frigid deluge cascading down my spine. "Overreacting," I echoed, my tone a faint murmur. "Yeah, well." Ethan rubbed the nape of his neck awkwardly. "It's only a clip. Jasmine's got a massive audience. That's her style of posting. Nothing targeted. Nothing personal." My pitch climbed despite my efforts to rein it in. She recorded me without consent. She paraded me before hordes online, and she claimed, "It's my job to wait on you both," framing it as impersonal. Jasmine folded her arms, shedding any facade of regret. "Mother-in-law, you admitted just 2 weeks back how much you adore minding the little ones, that it's the highlight of your days. I merely echoed your sentiment." She was right. I'd voiced that, but not twisted into her spin, not laced with sarcasm to excuse exploiting me. "Moreover," Jasmine pressed on, emboldened now that Ethan wasn't backing me up, "we're all under one roof. It's expected that we each pitch in. We cover the bills, the groceries, you handle the chores. Everyone chips away at it." A vice gripped my ribs, squeezing until I feared I'd faint. "You cover the bills," I probed deliberately. "The groceries." "Sure," Ethan replied as if it were plain as day. "Power, heating, water, all the shopping, it pulls from my salary." I sank into the seat, my knees buckling beneath me. "Ethan," I said, locking eyes with him firmly, "do you realize whose name graces the property title?" He knit his brows. "What's that got to do with it?" "Just answer." Dad's, I suppose, or maybe both of yours." Jasmine eyed me with intrigue now as well. A fracture split through me, not grief, but sheer outrage. This home stands solely in my name, mine alone. I purchased it back in 1993 using my own funds, every cent of the initial deposit. Every installment across those 15 years flowed from my labor. Your dad never laid eyes on the completed build. He passed before the deal closed. I constructed that bathroom myself. I installed these very floors. I cultivated the garden where your kids romp. And through it all, I've never once demanded a dime in rent from you. The quiet hung thick and total. Those bills you boast about footing, they're for my property, the provisions you procure. They simmer on my range, chill in my cooler, grace my dining surface. You rest in my sleeping quarters. You cleanse in my washroom. You lounge in my lounge. I observed Jasmine's jaw tense. And across the 5 years you've dwelled here as a couple, I've sought nothing beyond basic courtesy. "Mom, take it easy," Ethan urged. And that remark snapped the last thread. Take it easy. After your spouse broadcast me to the masses, after the slurs rolled in, gold digger, worthless hag, household drag, after you both mocked me, Ethan's complexion drained. You overheard us. I caught you two giggling over it yesterday evening. You remarked, "You're spot on, Jassy. Anyway, Mom's getting on in years. What more is there for her?" My boy dropped his stare, evading mine, though Jasmine held firm. What brewed in her look froze my veins. Zero contrition. Pure vexation. "Fine, if it's such a thorn," she snapped, flinging the retort like barbs. "I'll yank the clip down, satisfied." It's not the clip that's the point, Jasmine. It's about honor. This is my domain, and I merit proper regard within these walls. "No one slighted you," she barked, her volume surging. "Now you're the one inflating a routine social media bit into some epic saga. You ought to thank me for featuring you in my sea. Content creators often get paid for featuring folks in their clips." I was stunned by what I heard. I glanced at my boy, wishing he'd speak up, stand by me, draw the line with his spouse. Yet Ethan just muttered, sounding exhausted, "Mom, you're both blowing this out of proportion. Jasmine, erase the footage. Mom, let it go. We need to move on. No arguments here." That's the moment it all clicked for me. My son wasn't going to back me up. He'd picked superficial harmony over what's right. He'd opted to keep his wife happy rather than shield his own mother. I rose from the table. The pork chops and grits sat there, untouched and chilled. "You're correct," I replied, forcing a steadiness I didn't possess. "No arguments from me. Enjoy your day." I headed to my bedroom, secured the lock, and after ages I broke down in tears. Not from sorrow, but fury, realizing that in my very home, the one I'd constructed through hard labor, funded with my endless toil and dedication, I mattered less than the ease of a scheming daughter-in-law and the spinelessness of a sightless son. But one lesson life's drilled into me is that tears evaporate and anger builds. Anger fuels resolve. I wiped my cheeks, pulled open the drawer by my bed, grabbed an aged notebook with key contacts, and began dialing numbers because Jasmine and Ethan had committed a grave error. They figured my age meant frailty. They were on the verge of discovering that women like me didn't endure by yielding. We thrived by outsmarting our foes. The next 3 days flew by. I pretended everything was fine. I fixed morning meals, tidied up playthings, and grinned as the kids wrapped their arms around me. I offered Jasmine civil hellos when she brushed by, treating me like mere decor. Deep down, though, a shift had occurred. I watched closely now, paid attention, and jotted down in my mind every little thing I'd once overlooked. On Monday evening, Jasmine headed out with her pals. She returned around 11 p.m., reeking of smokes and a fancy scent unfamiliar to me. Ethan was out cold. He never questioned her arrival. Tuesday, as I straightened their space, yes, I kept at it despite my instincts howling to quit, I spotted a bill from an Italian eatery, $150 for a meal shared by 2. Timestamp, last Wednesday. That very afternoon when Jasmine claimed she was handling bank chores, I stayed silent. I simply tucked the slip into my apron's pouch. Come Wednesday, the tide truly turned. It neared midnight. Sleep evaded me. These nights, rest came in fits, my mind racing over the recent chaos. I descended to the kitchen for lemon-infused water, my go-to for soothing frayed edges. The place was pitch black and still. Just the fridge's drone and a far-off canine's yip broke the silence. I filled a glass, added juice from half a citrus. As I turned to climb back, Jasmine's words drifted in. From the patio, she was chatting on her cell. I halted at the kitchen threshold, hidden in the dimness, clutching my drink. "No, Mom, hold off," she whispered, tone hushed, yet distinct. "I warned you, patience is key." A pause followed. I caught the other voice. Yeah, but I can't push too hard. Turns out the granny's tougher than expected." My pulse quickened. "Listen, let me break it down once more." Jasmine pressed on, irritation creeping in. "Once she's gone, the property shifts straight to Ethan. Sole heir, her only child, and whatever's his becomes ours. That's the law on legacies." The ground seemed to sway under me. "Our attorney says after 5 years residing here, we've built tenancy claims. We can argue our upkeep of the place, plus her age. How long can she last? A decade. Half that." She discussed my end like idle chit-chat about the forecast. "Nah, Ethan's clueless," she added with a sharp chuckle. "And it stays that way. You know his mushy spot for his precious ma. If I mention the home's ours someday, he'll tear up, blabber about honoring her in that drivel." I clamped a hand over my lips to stifle the cry rising in my chest. Sure, I honor her mom, but reality bites. This property's valued at $450,000 easy. Imagine what we could pull off. Flip it. Snag a larger spot in a classier area. Stash the surplus wisely. $450,000. My dwelling, my existence, my endurance boiled down to digits in her scheming mind. Anyway, I consulted the lawyer just last week. He laid it all out. House solely titled to her. No filed testament. It defaults to the obligatory successor, Ethan. Done deal. Zero effort on his part. Automatic. Then came the flick of a match. Jasmine lit up, despite always brushing off Ethan's probes about whether she smo I'd harbored that flaw myself. The real issue might arise if she drafted a will and bequeathed the property to another person. But to whom? She had no one close. And I truly doubted that someone of her years was pondering such matters. Women from her era rarely visited lawyers or prepared documents. They clung to bygone times. Fury surged up from my core like scorching magma. Moreover, even supposing she did create a will, I'd verified it. Compulsory heirs could demand their portion. Ethan would invariably secure his inheritance. Thus, regardless of the scenario, victory was ours. A hush fell again. I caught the sound of her inhaling deeply from the smoke. The footage. Oh, Mom, that was separate. It was aimed at my followers to boost interaction. You understand the drill. Greater drama means higher traffic. Sure, the elderly woman fumed, but she'd cool down eventually. What could she possibly do? Evict us. She lacked the nerve. You witnessed her theatrics, yet in the end, she resumed her routine of preparing meals and tidying up. That's the moment when the ache within me faded and ignited into flames. No need to fret, Jasmine assured with an arrogance that turned my stomach. All is handled. I'll ensure she remains content and productive. As long as she buys into our blissful household illusion, she won't attempt anything odd. And when the moment arrives, well, we've secured it. The home belongs to us. She ended the call. I detected her steps nearing the residence. I darted away swiftly. I ascended the staircase as quietly as possible, my pulse hammering fiercely against my sternum, fearing it might burst free. I slipped into my bedroom, secured the lock, and slumped back against the panel, knees quaking. The water glass was still clutched in my grip. I set it down on the nightstand with such delicacy that it landed without a whisper. Then it hit me. I'd stashed my mobile in the dressing gown's fold, and on pure reflex, or perhaps divine intervention, I'd hit record upon catching Jasmine's opening remark. With unsteady fingers, I retrieved the device. The recording captured it all, each utterance, each scheme, each deception. Precisely 8 minutes and 43 seconds of undeniable proof. I perched on the mattress and played the file from start to finish to confirm its clarity. Jasmine's tone rang out sharply. Her statements were beyond dispute. Once it concluded, I gazed at the display, and for the first time in ages, a genuine grin spread across my face, not one laced with resentment or sorrow, but the triumphant beam of a lady who'd uncovered the ace cards in a contest she believed forfeited. For Jasmine had one truth. Ladies of my vintage seldom consult attorneys, unless circumstances demand it. I glanced at the timepiece. It read 1 a.m., far too late for a ring, yet ideal for strategizing. I retrieved the notebook holding key contacts. I leafed through until locating the entry I sought. Azure Williams, my lifelong confidant of 30 years, a former property lawyer who retired 5 years back, yet possessed sharper legal insight in her little finger than most fresh graduates. And beneath it, a further contact. Leo Jakes, my nephew, offspring of my late brother Jerry, gone 10 years now, an expert in domestic law and estates, an honorable soul who dropped by monthly and invariably reminded me, "Auntie, whatever you require, just reach out." I'd never required aid until this juncture. I concealed the phone beneath my cushion like a prized gem, for it truly was my weapon. I reclined, but rest evaded me. Impossible, truly. My thoughts raced relentlessly, sketching strategies, assessing risks, anticipating moves well in advance. Jasmine figured she was clever. Jasmine viewed me as a gullible senior she'd exploit till my last breath. Jasmine had no clue about her adversary, for I'd endured my spouse's passing. I'd single-handedly nurtured a boy into manhood. I'd constructed a dwelling through sheer effort. I'd toiled 20 hours daily for decades, and she imagined outsmarting me with flimsy falsehoods and lackluster plots. Foolish child. She couldn't fathom the tempest she'd provoked. Come morning, I descended for the meal as per routine. I whipped up eggs alongside beans, brewed some coffee, and welcomed them with a warm expression. Jasmine eyed me with that condescending vibe I now discerned clearly. "Good morning, mother-in-law," she cooed with contrived warmth. "Good morning, sweetheart," I responded. While plating her food, observing Ethan skim the newsprint oblivious to my presence, overhearing the grandkids squabble over the remote, my mind fixed on a single notion. Savor these moments, for your realm is on the verge of collapse, and no short social clip will rescue it this round. On Thursday at 10:00 a.m., with Jasmine at her workout session and Ethan occupied at his job, I departed the home carrying my understated purse, phone nestled securely in my attire. I informed the kids I was off to the store. Kyla scarcely lifted her eyes from the screen. Sam was absorbed in animated shows. I hailed a cab, a luxury I typically shunned, but necessity overrode frugality. I directed the cabbie to the office of the practice where Azure had labored prior to her withdrawal from the field. She presently resided in a modest apartment close to the city's center, within a structure. The building dated back to the 1970s, featuring walls painted in mustard tones and greenery adorning each balcony. I pressed the buzzer. Footsteps approached quickly inside. "Who's there?" came Azure's voice through the intercom. "It's me, your close pal Ruthie May." A short pause followed, then the door's lock clicked open with a hum. I ascended the 3 stories on foot, as the lift was perpetually out of service. Azure waited at her doorway, her silver hair tied neatly into a ponytail and her spectacles dangling from a cord around her neck, resting against her maroon knit cardigan. "Ruthie May," she remarked, her keen gaze scanning my features intently. "Your expression suggests this isn't just a friendly drop-in." I entered the space. The air carried the aroma of newly made coffee, mingled with the spicy scent of Azure's favorite cinnamon-scented candles. We settled into her compact, welcoming lounge, surrounded by shelves of volumes and cherished family snapshots. "Spill it all," she urged directly, as she filled a fragile porcelain cup with brew for me. And so I did, recounting the footage, the embarrassment, the snippet of dialogue I'd caught, and Jasmine's scheme to claim my home. Once I'd wrapped up, I pulled out my device and let the recording play for her. Azure absorbed it all in silence. Her face shifted from calm to irritated, escalating to outright anger. As the clip concluded, she removed her lenses and massaged the spot between her eyes. "That villain!" she declared tonelessly. Azure avoided profanity entirely. Her choice of words here underscored the gravity of the matter. Has Ethan caught wind of any of this? Not a thing. Jasmine claims he's utterly in the dark. Predictable, Azure replied, drawing a deep draft from her mug. Boys often remain blind to their spouse's real natures until it's too late. So what's your next move, old friend? I aim to safeguard my property. I want them to face consequences, and I need Ethan to finally see the truth. Azure inclined her head thoughtfully. Priority 1, the deed's solely in your possession, right? Absolutely, just mine. For some reason, I held back from adding Ethan's name. That reason's intuition, and it just preserved your position, Azure noted, slipping her glasses back into place. Next, do you have a testament drafted? I shook my head no. Jasmine's spot on about that much. Without one, if you pass away, the property defaults to Ethan as your mandatory successor. But we can remedy it. Draft a will and reach out to my nephew, Leo. I was thinking along those lines. I've got his contact. Ring him immediately. I'll shoot him a message on WhatsApp, too. He's reliable and keeps things confidential. I punched in the digits as Azure typed her note. Leo picked up after 3 tones. Aunt Ruthie May, all good. His tone sounded affectionate yet worried. At 38, Leo was an only son, and following his dad, my sibling Jerry's, sudden cardiac demise, I'd covered some of his university costs. He'd never billed me, but he often said I was the reason for his success. Leo, I require your presence. It's pressing and involves law. A beat of quiet. You're at Aunt Azure's. Finishing up a session in 20. I'll swing by in 40. Stay put. The line went dead. Azure grinned. He's a solid one, much like his father. The following half hour passed with us, sipping Java and strategizing. Azure, her lawyer's acumen undimmed post-retirement, outlined my choices. You could execute a will bequeathing the residence to anyone of your choosing. Ethan, a charity, a religious group, even me if it suits. It's yours to decide. I can't cut off my boy entirely. He's ensnared by her influence. I get that. Yet you can impose stipulations, establish a trust, partition the estate. Plenty of avenues exist to shield your assets, deliver a blow to that viper, and still keep your sons secure. And regarding the recording, any recourse. Azure pursed her lips. From a legal standpoint, it's murky. You never authorized your inclusion, but with it shot in your residence where she resides, boundaries blur. You might demand removal for improper likeness usage, though it'd drag on. No drawn-out battles for me. I crave swift retribution. In that case, target what stings most, the finances. Strip away her prize and dismantle her schemes, all without setting foot in court. I grinned. No wonder Azure had reigned as the top property lawyer around. A rap echoed at the entrance. Leo was punctual. Through the viewer, I spotted his imposing frame, robust physique, tidy facial hair, and charcoal attire. He clutched a satchel of fine leather. Azure let him in. "Auntie," Leo said warmly, pecking her on the cheek. He pivoted to me. "Aunt Ruthie May." He enveloped me in a genuine embrace, the sort that eases the weight of isolation. We gathered round the low table. Leo produced a pad and writing tool. "Lay it out for me." And once more, that morning, I relayed the full tale. I shared the recording. Leo's demeanor grew graver by the moment. Upon its close, he shut his notes and reclined into the cushions. "Auntie, that lady isn't merely scheming. She's a threat, and her assertions hold water legally, at least on a technical level. From a moral standpoint, it's downright rotten. What can I possibly do about it? Plenty, and we're about to get started." Leo pulled out a few papers from his briefcase. "Choice number 1, a public will. You decide exactly who gets what and under specific terms. If handled right, it's bulletproof. Can I add stipulations?" "Absolutely. For instance, you could stipulate that Ethan only gets the house after a divorce, or mandate that it's sold, with the proceeds divided among your grandkids. You might set up a trust that lets you retain oversight until you pass away, then it transfers to whoever you choose. The possibilities are endless. I don't aim to hurt Ethan. I just need to shield myself from her." Leo gave a knowing nod. "In that case, here's my recommendation. Establish a living trust. You'd be the creator and sole beneficiary for life. That keeps the house entirely in your possession as long as you're alive. No one can touch it, sell it, or interfere. Upon your passing, you name the recipients with any conditions you desire. Jasmine wouldn't stand a chance against it. The trust offers full protection. Even if it eventually goes to Ethan, it'd count as his individual asset, not shared marital property. She couldn't claim a dime. A huge burden eased off my shoulders. How quickly can we get this done? If we kick it off now, it'll be finalized in 7 days. Bring the property deed, your government-issued ID, and plan to join me at the lawyer's office next Tuesday. I'll handle all the prep work. Anything more?" I inquired, inhaling deeply. "I want them gone from my home." Leo and Azure shared a glance. "Kick them out?" Leo queried. "Not sure that's the best term, but I refuse to share space with someone who's just biding time for my death so she can seize what's mine. On paper, you absolutely can. It's your property. No rental contract exists. They're there courtesy of your kindness, and you can revoke that any time. Straightforward as that. But Aunt," Leo regarded me with worry, "Ethan's your boy. This could shatter the family ties. You certain?" I paused in silence for what felt like ages. My mind replayed the chilly pork chops, the derisive chuckles, the online clip that spread like wildfire, the scheme to swipe my home, my son's willful ignorance. The family's fractured already, Leo. I'm merely exposing the damage they inflicted behind closed doors. Azure gave my hand a gentle squeeze. "All right, we'll handle this properly," Leo affirmed. "And by the book. Count on me for support throughout." We wrapped up 2 hours later with a solid strategy in hand. Tuesday meant heading to the lawyer to establish the trust. Wednesday, Leo would assist in cataloging all my belongings in the house legally. And Saturday, while they were out, we'd launch the big operation. I hailed a cab back home. It was 3 p.m. Jasmine lounged in the den, applying nail polish while glued to a TV program. She barely glanced my way as I entered. "Get the veggies," she tossed out, eyes fixed on the screen. "Slipped my mind," I fibbed. "Tomorrow, then." "Oh, Mom, such a space cadet. Guess we'll grab some pizza instead." I eyed her sprawled in my favorite chair, hogging my power, inhaling my oxygen, scheming to claim my existence, and I grinned. "Sure thing, sweetheart, get the pizza." Upstairs in my bedroom, I stashed Leo's papers in a drawer and punched in another contact on my phone. "Hey, Cousin Marcia, Ruthie Mae here. I require some help, and it's tied to online platforms." Marcia, my distant relative on my mom's side, had turned 50 and boasted more than 200,000 TikTok fans. She gained fame through her old-school recipe clips, but she also mastered the platform's mechanics, boosting visibility, crafting narratives that tug at the soul. "Spill it all," she urged with her trademark zest. So I did. Once I wrapped up, Marcia whistled sharply. "Kin, that woman's picked the wrong target. When the time comes for payback, give the word. I'll ensure the whole country tunes in." I ended the call. All elements aligned, the board pieces positioned, the scheme outlined. Now it was just a matter of timing the Queen's strike to topple the foe's monarch. The weekend delivered a surprise twist. Friday evening, Jasmine sauntered into the kitchen clutching her phone, flashing that petulant kid grin she flashed when scheming. "Mom," she cooed, tone dripping sweetness. "You'll never guess. We're off for a little escape to the Grand Cypress Resort. Won it in a company drawing. Covers the stay, food, even the spa treatments. We head out at dawn tomorrow, back late Monday." My pulse raced, but I schooled my expression. "Sounds fantastic, honey. You two have earned a break. All that hard work." Ethan trailed in after her, lugging a bag. "Mom, you good on your own. 3 full days. 3 days, kiddo. At 68, I'm not 88 yet. I manage fine." "What about the little ones?" he started. "They're with me. Or did you intend to drag them to the spa?" I arched a brow. Jasmine and Ethan traded uneasy glances. We figured." Jasmine nibbled her lower lip. "Or perhaps the kids could tag along. There's a shallow pool just for children. Otherwise, they can hang out here with Grandma and enjoy themselves. We'll whip up some cookies, catch a few films, and head to the playground." I glanced over at Kyla and Sam, who'd just burst into the room. "What sounds better to you two? A dull spa trip with Mom and Dad, or an exciting weekend hanging with Grandma?" Both yelled, "With Grandma!" in unison. Decision made. I caught the irritation flashing in Jasmine's gaze, but she kept quiet. Ethan seemed downright grateful to escape kid duty on their couple's escape. They headed out at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. I sent them off from the doorway with embraces and pecks. Jasmine offered a half-hearted squeeze, the sort that feels obligatory. "Keep an eye on things, mother-in-law, and mind the little ones." "As usual," I answered, flashing my most compliant grandma grin. Ethan planted a kiss on my brow. "Appreciate it, Mom. You're a lifesaver." I stood there as they climbed into the vehicle, saw them pull away along the road, watched them round the bend, and vanish from sight. I shut the door, drew in a steadying breath, and pulled out my phone. Lo, they've left. Great. Be there shortly, truck in tow. About 30 minutes. I climbed the stairs to rouse the youngsters. I fixed them a speedy meal of cereal, milk, and sliced bananas. "Grandma, park time today," Sam mumbled through a stuffed mouth. "Soon, buddy. Grandma's got a few chores first. How about cartoons on my tablet while you wait?" Their faces brightened instantly. I rarely allowed screen time so early, making this a special perk. I settled them in the den with cozy throws and my device queued up to beloved animations. I handed over treats and drinks. That should keep them busy for a solid 2 hours at least. By 8:30, Leo pulled up. He brought company, a compact relocation van and a pair of burly guys in navy coveralls. "Hey, Auntie," Leo called, stepping from his SUV. "Meet Roberto and Chewy. Reliable types. They team up with a buddy of mine, quiet and efficient." The fellows tipped their hats politely. "Morning, madam. Where do we begin?" I swung open the entrance. The main sleeping area, all their stuff goes, wardrobe, fixtures. They hauled in their own gear. Clear it all out. Leo grabbed a notebook. "Let's get organized. I'll catalog every piece we haul. Snap pics, too, for proof if they claim we're swiping things. That way we can show we only took what was theirs." Over the following 3 hours, those guys hustled like a well-drilled team. They lugged away the sleek chest of drawers Jasmine picked up 2 years back, the oversized bed they'd imported at their wedding since the old one felt outdated, the lighted vanity mirror setup, the wall-mounted racks, the 50-inch screen Ethan mounted, all of Jasmine's footwear containers, Ethan's tailored outfits, each gown, neckwear, scent bottle, skincare jar, cosmetic, every last bit. Leo captured images of each before they descended the stairs. I ticked items off my inventory. "That bookcase," I directed, nodding at the ebony timber piece by the pane. "Positive. It's sharp," Leo noted. "They grabbed it last year." "I've got my vintage pine version tucked in the storage out back. They swapped it for this. It leaves 2. The crew broke it down and carted off the sections one by one. Once the primary chamber was done, it resembled an empty lodging suite. Just the pale azure walls I'd selected 15 years prior and the solid wood flooring I'd covered myself lingered. "Now the washroom," I instructed. "Remove it all. Jasmine's pricey lotions at over $35 a pop, Ethan's powered brush, the fresh linens from last year, their hamper, right down to the rug. I'll keep my worn spares and plain soap." "Family area next," Roberto inquired, dabbing his brow. I scanned the space. The slate couch sprawled across half the room. They'd snagged it 2 years ago because my deep blue upholstery clashed with their vibe. "Ditch the TV, too. It's theirs. Mine's the compact one they stashed in the bedroom." Out came the couch, the clear-topped side table, the 60-inch display, the audio setup, even the trendy potted greenery Jasmine added for flair. I retrieved my faded navy recliner from storage. It showed some age, but stayed spotless and snug. We positioned it in its old haunt. My 32-inch set reclaimed the den spot. The etched timber side table from my mom resumed its post. The place began feeling like home once more. "Kitchen?" Chewy queried. "Extract the fancy espresso machine Jasmine imported, their nonstick cookware collection, the recent mixer, the built-in oven, anything added after they arrived. We cracked open the dish storage, too." "Those sleek white platters are theirs," I indicated, eyeing the angular ones I despised. "Grab the full stack. Mine's the patterned china, boxed up." Leo regarded me with near awe. "Auntie, you're unyielding. I hold on to what's mine. They grab what's theirs. So, what's the issue?" He grinned. At noon, the vehicle was loaded up. "Where's it headed?" Roberto inquired. "Over to the storage facility on Maplewood Avenue," Leo replied, passing him a note with the location. "It's leased and covered for a full month. Here's the key." I gave him the one I'd picked up last Thursday, a 60-foot unit, plenty of room for all their belongings. The crew drove off with the truck. Leo hung back with me. "Now comes the fun bit," he remarked, pulling a compact toolkit from his SUV. He swapped out the front door's lock. The silver one that had hung there for 15 years gave way to a fresh gold-toned steel model. "There you go," he said, offering me 3 shiny new keys. "One for you, one backup, and one extra for safety." "Is this above board?" I wondered, despite suspecting the truth. "Totally. This is your home. You can update the locks any time. They hold no renter protections since they've skipped payments. By law, they're merely guests here on your generosity." I slipped the keys into my pocket. The place felt transformed, barer yet truly my own, like it had reclaimed its spirit. I tidied it all, vacuumed, scrubbed the floors, wiped down surfaces, and repositioned my vintage furnishings where they once belonged. I retrieved the stored photos of Richard, of young Ethan, of my folks, and hung them up again on the walls. I draped the dining table with those intricately stitched cloths my mother gifted me at my wedding. I tended to the garden plants, and once done, I settled into my deep blue recliner in the front room, in my own space, sipping coffee from my cherished mug, the floral-patterned one Jasmine had shoved to the rear shelf for seeming outdated. The kids were glued to animated shows, unaware of the shifts. Leo joined me on the couch. "What are your thoughts on all this?" I mulled it over. I searched for regret, shame, hesitation. None surfaced, only serenity. "I feel liberated," I told him. At last he agreed. "They'll show up again on Monday. Prepared for that." "Absolutely, it could get messy, Auntie. I get it, but the mess already unfolded. When they mocked me online, plotted against me, when my own boy ridiculed me. That was the real mess. This is fairness." Leo rose. "Count me in for Monday. Whenever you say, you won't face it solo. Thanks, nephew." Once he departed, I whipped up the grandkids' go-to meal: crispy homemade chicken strips, shoestring potatoes, and vibrant Jell-O. We dined outdoors, perched on the stone ledge beneath the citrus tree. "Nana, how come they hauled out so much stuff from the house?" Kyla piped up out of nowhere. My sharp-eyed 9-year-old granddaughter had noticed more than expected. "I was just reorganizing, honey. Occasionally, you clear away the outdated to welcome something superior. My parents will be furious." I met her gaze. Those warm hazel eyes passed down from Ethan. Perhaps, but grown-ups sometimes handle tough choices to teach valuable lessons. Get it? She dipped her head, even if it wasn't fully clear. The remaining days flew by in an oddly calm rhythm. We goofed around, caught films, baked gooey chocolate cookies. I tucked them in with bedtime tales, all three of us crammed onto my mattress, content. Sunday evening, with the little ones asleep, I lingered in the shadowed den. Come morning, they'd arrive. They'd discover my changes. Everything would shift. I grabbed my phone and texted Leo, "Arrive at 5:10 p.m. sharp. That's when they'll pull up." His response buzzed right away. On my way, Auntie, armed with every legal support required. I set the device aside. I scanned my home. The genuine one I'd constructed, protected, refused to surrender. And I bided my time, for the tempest loomed. This round, I embodied the thunderbolt. Monday afternoon at 4:30, the sound of a vehicle halting out front reached me. I occupied my deep blue recliner, palms folded neatly, posture firm. I'd brewed a fresh batch of coffee, a whole urn, since this would drag on. The youngsters played with their mini vehicles in the rear yard. I'd instructed them to stay put until summoned. Car doors slammed, chatter and chuckles drifted in. Their vacation had lifted their moods. Steps neared the entrance, the jingle of a key sliding into the lock, twisting futilely. Quiet fell once more. The key, the push, the blockade. "What's wrong? It won't budge," Ethan's puzzled tone echoed. "Give it another go," Jasmine urged, edgy. More tugs, more clanging irritation. "Stuck, maybe," Ethan fretted. I rose from the seat and adjusted my outfit. I'd chosen my prized beige frock with floral stitching, saved for key moments. I approached the entry. Through the barrier, their tussle with the mechanism continued. I swung it wide. Ethan stood there, key gripped, brow damp with effort. Jasmine lingered just behind Elle. Looking irritated, she hefted her pricey beach tote. "Mom, thank God you're finally here. The lock's stuck." "We can't—" Ethan started to protest. "It's not stuck," I cut him off, keeping my tone steady. "I replaced it." Dead quiet. They stared at me like I'd just switched to some foreign tongue. "What do you mean you replaced it?" Jasmine demanded, letting out a shaky chuckle. "Why on earth would you?" "Because this is my home, and I chose to update the locks." "Mom, what's happening?" Ethan let his bag drop to the ground, his expression pure bewilderment. "Come on in," I invited, moving out of the way. "But keep your bags on the porch if you don't mind." "What?" "The heat's brutal out there." Jasmine pushed forward with her stuff. "I said leave them outside," I restated, sharper this time. My delivery halted them in their tracks. They abandoned the luggage by the entrance and stepped through. That's when it hit them. Jasmine spotted it first. Her gaze swept the space like it was totally unfamiliar. "Where's my stuff?" she demanded, her pitch rising sharply. "The couch! The television! What have you done?" Ethan gaped around the room, jaw slack. "Mom, where'd it all go?" "It's in storage," I answered evenly, settling back into my favorite chair. "Over on Maplewood Avenue. All your belongings are waiting there for pickup." Our belongings. Jasmine's tone spiked even higher. What happened to everything we own? "I relocated it somewhere secure. Anything you added to this place got boxed up and cataloged. Not a single item went missing." Jasmine bolted for the staircase. I caught the sound of her bounding up, skipping steps. Then a shriek echoed from above. "Ethan, get up here!" She cleared out everything. My outfits, my footwear, my makeup table, even the mattress. Rushing feet, slamming doors. The bathroom as well. My lotions, all of it. Now the steps thundered back down. Jasmine led, cheeks flushed with rage. Ethan trailed, ashen-faced. "Are you out of your mind?" Jasmine bellowed, planting herself in front of me. "This is stealing. I'll dial the cops. You'll end up behind bars." "Go ahead and call," I responded without flinching. "I've got the property title, a full list of what I removed. Pictures of it all, plus people who saw it happen. I only handled what belonged to you two." "We reside here. You can't evict us like this." "I'm not evicting anyone. Your possessions are safely stored. You're welcome to remain, but you'll use the rooms I assign with whatever setup I supply, following the guidelines I set." "Mom, none of this makes sense," Ethan chimed in at last, his words quivering. "What's behind all this? Why now? What went wrong?" I met his gaze. My boy, my sole child. A sharp ache twisted inside me, yet I held firm. "Ethan, take a seat. Jasmine, you as well. We need to discuss the reality of things." "I'm not sitting," Jasmine snapped. "I demand my stuff returned this instant." I pulled my phone from my dress. "Before you keep shouting, listen to this first." "I don't give a—" Jasmine started. I hit play. Her own voice echoed through the room. "No, Mom, hold off. This requires patience. I get it, I do, but I can't force her hand. The woman's tougher than we anticipated." I observed the blood fade from Jasmine's features. I allowed the recording to run its course, each phrase, each scheme, each deception. Right after she passes, the property shifts straight to Ethan. The attorney confirmed that after our 5 years here, we've got claim to it. This place is worth at least $450,000 easy. Ethan collapsed into the chair, his look shifting from puzzled to appalled. "No, Ethan's clueless about it all. You see how attached he is to his sweet little mom." My son turned to me, eyes brimming. The clip droned on to its final bitter line. When it stopped, the hush hung heavy, thick enough to slice. That was. Jasmine stammered, her words fracturing. "Misinterpreted, a bit of fun, fabricated." I wrapped it up for her. "No, Jasmine, that occurred last Wednesday at 11:30 p.m., right in my garden, chatting with your mom about seizing my home." I don't. She fumbled for replies, alibis, whatever. "You deceived, you schemed, and the worst part, you deceived my son. You treated him like a stepping stone to claim what was never yours." Ethan buried his face in his palms, body trembling. "Ethan, let me clarify." Jasmine reached toward him. "Stay away," he roared, shoving her back. It marked the initial occasion in 5 years I'd witnessed him raise his voice to her. "Is all that accurate? Tell me. Is it?" "Darling, hear me out. I only aim to protect our prospects, the kids' prospects. Just answer, true or false." Jasmine parted her lips, shut them again, and in that quiet, Ethan grasped the truth. He rose unsteadily from the seat and faced me, tears streaming. "Mom, I had no idea. I promise on my life I was in the dark." "I believe you," I murmured gently. "That's why your items stayed put, too." He released a choked cry, a noise that tore at me, though it didn't sway my resolve. "So what do you expect from us?" he queried, voice breaking. Right then, a rap sounded at the entrance. I insisted he had to be my lawyer, rising from my seat. He showed up right on cue. As soon as I swung the door open, Leo stepped inside carrying his briefcase sharp in his charcoal suit. "Afternoon, folks. I'm Leo Jakes, attorney representing Mrs. Ruthie Mae Jakes. You're Ethan Jakes and Jasmine Williams, correct?" They nodded slowly, faces pale with disbelief. "Excellent. I've come to hand over some paperwork and outline the legal details." Leo flipped open his case and extracted a stack of documents. "To start, here's a duplicate of the irrevocable living trust Mrs. Jakes set up just last week. The property now sits in an unchangeable trust, with her as the creator and sole beneficiary for life. In other words, nobody, not a soul, can stake any claim on this place as long as she's breathing." He passed a set to each. "Next, this lists every item taken out of the home. Notice how only the things you added after settling in got moved. 0 of Mrs. Jakes's possessions were disturbed. Finally," Leo went on, tone steady yet authoritative, "here's the storage facility's address and the key for your stuff. You've got 30 days to collect it all. Beyond that, Mrs. Jakes isn't liable for whatever becomes of it." Jasmine stared at the sheets like they were ancient runes. "And one more thing," Leo glanced my way before proceeding. "Mrs. Jakes holds full authority to evict you any time, since no rental contract exists, and your presence here was purely her choice." "But hold on," I interjected, addressing the group. "I won't be tossing you to the curb. Ethan, you're my boy. You'll always hold that spot in my heart, though everything shifts from here. If you choose to remain, boundaries apply." "Jasmine," I met her gaze directly, "you're welcome to stick around as well, but only under certain terms. Otherwise, you both pack up and go. Up to you." "What kind of terms?" Ethan inquired, brushing away his tears. "For starters, rent starts now. $500 monthly for living under my roof." "Mom, wait, but no. Second point, you'll pitch in with chores, all of us together. We'll draft a rota as a team. Third, total respect for me, for this home, for everything I've created. No recordings, no ridicule, no hidden schemes, or you're out." Jasmine parted her lips as if to argue. "And lastly," I pressed on, not giving her a chance. "Jasmine, erase that video right here in front of me, then upload a sincere apology, or the offer's off the table. What if I refuse?" she challenged, clinging to her fading defiance. "Then your spouse and kids remain, and you hit the road. Your call." The quiet that stretched out seemed endless. Ethan eyed Jasmine. She turned to him. They both scanned the documents clutched in their fists, and Jasmine, for the first time I'd witnessed, crumbled. "Sorry," she murmured, voice faint. "Sorry." I couldn't tell if regret truly stirred in her or if desperation forced the words. Truth be told, in that instant, it didn't matter anymore. I'd reclaimed my home. I'd reclaimed my self-respect, and I'd pulled my son free from deception's grip. Everything else. That would unfold in due course. No one stirred for what dragged like hours, though mere minutes passed. Jasmine lingered in the room's center, papers quivering in her grasp. Ethan slumped in the chair, head down, gasping like he'd sprinted a race. Leo shattered the hush. "Take your time to absorb it all. I'll wait outside if you need anything, Aunt." He gave my shoulder a gentle pat before slipping out, easing the door shut. Jasmine spoke first. "You can't pull this off," she claimed, yet her tone rang empty, broken. "We're family. Family doesn't scheme to steal from you. Family doesn't shame you online. Family doesn't bide time for your passing to snatch what belongs to you," I countered calmly. "I never wished for you to die," she countered weakly. "How long does she have?" 10 years, maybe 5. I echoed her recorded words. "Just jogging your recollection." Jasmine shut her eyes tight. A single tear traced her face, though I wondered if it sprang from sincerity or strategy. Ethan bolted upright. "Fresh air, that's what I need," he muttered, heading to the back patio without a glance our way. From the window, I saw him drop onto the stone seat, the very spot where I'd wept and plotted this turnaround. He buried his face in his palms. Jasmine edged toward the exit. "Let him be," I instructed her. "For once, allow him space to sort through it without you steering the story." She halted. Her stare held a mix of resentment and dread, likely both. "What exactly do you demand from me?" she demanded at last. "To break me down, ruin me. You've triumphed already. That not sufficient. Humiliation isn't my goal, Jasmine. I need you to grasp the damage you've caused. I want you to gaze at those kids frolicking outside and question the model you're providing them. I did it all for them for tea. They were gambling away their future just to secure a comfortable existence. You showed them it's fine to deceive, to manipulate, and to exploit others. Taking an inheritance isn't theft in your eyes, but plotting to claim what's mine in hopes I'll pass away soon, that's outright theft." Jasmine parted her lips to respond, yet words failed her. There was simply no way to justify it. She slumped down against the wall, sliding to the floor, her fingers still gripping the documents tightly. "I have no idea what to do next," she murmured, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to make this right." I settled into my favorite chair opposite her. I allowed the quiet to linger. "Do you realize what's the most heartbreaking aspect here?" I asked at last. "I cared for you deeply, Jasmine, honestly. The day Ethan introduced you to the family, I noticed the way you gazed at him. It seemed like genuine affection. I welcomed you into my home, into my world. I embraced you as if you were my own child, and I cared for you as well." She breathed softly. "No, that's not true. You never truly wanted me. What you craved was stability, a place to live without cost, someone to care for your kids while you pursued your own path. But me, you never valued me." She shook her head, though it lacked any real denial. As I pressed on, "That recording you made, it didn't just embarrass me, it erased me entirely. You turned me into a mere role, an unpaid servant." And the world chuckled along. Countless strangers who know nothing about me now view me as a liability, a fortune hunter, a pointless elderly lady. "It was only a clip," she began weakly. "That was my self-respect." My tone sharpened for the first time. "Have you any clue how many years I toiled to construct this home? The endless nights without sleep, the meals of simple beans and cornbread to stretch every penny, the times my hands were raw and aching, in every sense." I rose and approached her. "This place was forged from my very essence, Jasmine, and you intended to seize it like it meant nothing, as if I held no value, as if my existence was irrelevant." She was weeping openly now, her cosmetics smeared across her face, her locks in total disarray. A far cry from the poised content creator who shared those clips online. The sliding door to the garden swung open. Ethan entered. His eyes were puffy and bloodshot, but his face carried a new resolve, tougher and more resolute. "Jasmine, on your feet," he commanded, his words steady. She glanced up at him from her spot on the ground. "Darling, no. Stand up. We have to discuss this out there." With effort, Jasmine pushed herself upright. Ethan grasped her elbow, not roughly but with unyielding support, and guided her outside to the terrace, shutting the door after them. I remained in the sitting room. Their words didn't reach me, but I watched their movements through the glass. Ethan was talking. Jasmine attempted to cut in. He lifted a palm, signaling for her to wait. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He held his ground. 20 minutes ticked by. When they stepped back inside, a shift was evident in their dynamic. It showed in the distance they kept, in their refusal to meet each other's gaze. Ethan broke the silence. "Mom, we're agreeing to your terms. Every single one. No discussions." Jasmine dipped her head in quiet assent, eyes fixed on the carpet. "But there's more you should hear," he went on, his speech wavering just a bit. "Jasmine and I are parting ways." It hit me like a blow to the gut. "Ethan, don't do this," I protested. "It's not your fault, Mom. It's ours. What unfolded today exposed everything. I believed I understood the person I wed. I assumed we held the same principles. I figured we were partners. Yet now I see she concealed deceptions, schemes, and regarded me as a tool for her goals." Ethan, wait, we can fix us, Jasmine implored, clutching his sleeve. Therapy, whatever it takes, I'll transform. He eased away from her touch with gentle firmness. I require space, time to reflect, to grasp your true self, since the one from that recording isn't the partner I recognized. And the kids? Jasmine questioned in anguish. The children remain with me, here alongside Mom, Ethan stated, turning my way, assuming she consents. Otherwise, we'll arrange another spot, but not where such schemes could resurface. I was at a loss for words, son. Mom, pardon me, Ethan said, dropping to his knees before me. My grown boy, 33, humbled like that. Pardon my blindness, for failing to protect you, for allowing that treatment in your own space, for smirking at that clip, for questioning you after the evidence. The sobs I'd suppressed finally broke free. All I ever wanted was to offer you a joyful household, I replied, stroking his hair. A real family. I believed staying out of the way, lending support, diminishing myself would let you all flourish. You shrank yourself far too much, Mom, to the point of fading away, and I overlooked it. Chose not to notice because it suited me for you to handle it all. Your endless giving, your forfeits of the master suite, your solitude, your very days. Ethan, rise. Stop now, you don't owe me this. His eyes, brimming with moisture, met mine. Dad passed when I was 3. Memories of him are faint. But you were constant. You drove yourself to the brink just to provide me a proper life. You covered my education. You backed me through every step, and how did I return the favor? With apathy, by brushing off your hurt, by putting my marital ease above your self-respect. That's not true, I attempted to reassure him. It is true, and that stops right now. He rose to his feet. Jasmine will head to the storage locker to sort through her belongings. She'll hunt for a new place to live. The kids and I will remain here. I'll cover the rent you specified, even if it's absurdly cheap. I'll pitch in around the home, and I'll become the kind of son you always merited. I turned to Jasmine. I braced for fury or bitterness. Instead, I found only surrender. When should I go? She inquired in a flat tone. You can crash in the guest room for tonight, I told her. Starting tomorrow, begin your search for somewhere else. You've got 30 days to clear your stuff from the storage and settle your affairs. The little ones can drop by any time, but this is no longer your home. She dipped her head, offering no resistance, no scheming. Maybe she'd grasped at last that she'd been beaten, or maybe she'd never invested enough heart to battle for real. One last item, Ethan added. That video. Erase it immediately. With shaky fingers, Jasmine pulled out her phone, navigated to TikTok, located the clip, now boasting more than 200,000 likes, and wiped it from existence. Now for the apology, I stated. Make it public and genuine, or the agreement's void. Jasmine met my gaze. Something flickered in her eyes that I couldn't quite pin down. Genuine regret, perhaps scheming or just acceptance. I'll handle it, she conceded at length, but not right away. I have to digest everything first. You've got until midday tomorrow, I insisted firmly. Otherwise, it's over. She agreed with a nod. Ethan stepped out to the patio to fetch the children. He ushered them in. Kyla and Sam scanned our faces, puzzled, picking up on the heavy atmosphere even without grasping the details. Hey, kids, Ethan announced, dropping to their height. Mom's gonna live elsewhere for a bit, but she'll visit plenty. You'll be right here with Dad and Grandma. Is that all right? Why? Kyla wondered, tapping into that kid's knack for spotting trouble. Grown-ups sometimes require space to sort out issues, Ethan explained. But our love for you stays rock solid. Nothing can alter that. Sam clung to my leg. Grandma's with us now. That's right, sweetheart. Grandma's here to stay. Cool, he murmured with a 6-year-old's straightforwardness. I enjoy hanging out with Grandma. Those plain words shattered and mended me in one breath. Jasmine bid farewell to her kids with lingering smooches and firm embraces. Tears streamed down her face. They reciprocated the hugs, hazy on the why but mirroring her sorrow. Then she ascended to the guest room, silent as she went. Ethan whipped up supper. Nothing fancy, just quesadillas and beans. We shared the meal wordlessly, the four of us at my dining table draped in my linens. Once the kids were tucked in, Ethan and I settled in the den. "You certain about this?" I probed. "The split. It's your clan." "This is my fractured clan, Mom. I can't go on acting like all's well when my whole union rested on deceit. The kids, they'll thrive more in a truthful setup, split though it may be, than in a nest of lies and control." He spoke truth, yet the ache lingered. "I love you, Mom," Ethan murmured, leaning his head against my shoulder as he did in his younger days. "And I'll demonstrate it daily moving forward. I believe you, son. I do." That evening, I stretched out in my bed, the one I'd reclaimed from the tiny space and reinstated in the main suite, and stared at the overhead. I'd reclaimed my home, yet forfeited the dream of an ideal household, worth the trade. I surveyed the surroundings, my bedroom, my territory, my reclaimed honor. Absolutely every single sob had been justified. Come morning, I descended at 6 like clockwork. I brewed coffee and unpacked yesterday's baked goods. The air carried a fresher scent, unburdened, like lingering haze from a long, smoldering blaze had dissipated at last. Ethan appeared at 7 shadows under his eyes, yet more at peace. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, son. Get some shut-eye." He served himself a mug, a bit, but soundly. "And you? Sounder than I have in ages." Jasmine didn't emerge till 9. Her tresses in a messy ponytail, face bare, still in yesterday's outfit. She appeared diminished, exposed. "Morning," she whispered softly. Silence greeted her. She fixed her own coffee quietly and took a seat at the table, keeping her distance. By 11 she lingered there, scrolling her phone. "Noon's approaching," I prompted. She lifted her head, her eyes puffed from weeping. "I know. Will you honor your side?" A tense pause stretched. I half expected her to refuse, to stand and depart without a peep, to forfeit even routine access to her young ones. But she inclined her head. "I need to film something. Mind if I use the front lawn?" Jasmine stepped outside. She grabbed her phone and a little tripod from her purse, then headed out to the backyard. From the window, I observed her arranging the setup, checking different shots, and smoothing her hair. Even in her lowest moments, her vanity shone through. But once she hit record, her words caught me off guard. I couldn't make out the audio from indoors, yet her expression told the tale. Tears streaming down, her wiping them away, hands waving emphatically, voice cracking under the strain. She filmed, paused, tried again. 4 attempts in total. When she returned inside at last, she held out her phone to me. "Before I post this, I need you to watch so you'll see I followed through on my word." I hit play. There was Jasmine on the display, raw and unfiltered. No enhancements, just puffy eyes and a shaky tone. "Hello, everyone. A lot of you probably caught that clip I shared 2 weeks back, the one where I ridiculed my mother-in-law, labeled her worthless, and claimed it was her job to handle my home and kids." She halted, drawing in a steadying breath. That post was heartless. It was unjust and it was false. My mother-in-law isn't worthless. She's the most dedicated person I know. With her own labor, she constructed the very house we share. She funded each stone by pulling extra hours after losing her husband, left with a young child to raise. She brought up my husband single-handedly, and upon our marriage, she welcomed us into her space without demanding a thing. By now, the tears flowed unchecked. And how did I respond? With scorn, with open shaming, with outright rudeness, not only in that clip, but every day. I acted like she was hired help, like she was in my debt, when really it's me who owes her it all. She brushed her cheek with her hand's edge. She had no duty to assist us. Every dish she prepared, every time she minded the children, every corner she surrendered. It was all a generous offering that I accepted as entitlement, which it never was. I'm sharing this because I must issue a public amends to her and to every mom, mother-in-law, and grandma who's dismissed as unseen, whose efforts go undervalued, whose devotion gets overlooked. Her tone fractured. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. And I get it if forgiveness isn't on the table, but I had to let you know and let the world know that I was mistaken. Utterly mistaken. And for those who cheered that original video, who chuckled, who left nasty remarks about her, please pause and reconsider before deriding a stranger. Every mother-in-law carries a legacy of resilience, devotion, and affection that I overlooked. The footage wrapped up. I gazed at the empty screen. "Is this sufficient?" Jasmine murmured softly. It wasn't flawless. Some sections felt scripted, but her raw emotion rang true. Those sobs, that vulnerability. "Go ahead and post it," I decided at length. She inclined her head. Her hands shook while tapping the controls. She included a caption, "The amends I owed from the beginning. Share." Now the clip sat on her feed, open to her 230,000 followers. "Finished," she announced. "It's live." From the threshold, Ethan, who'd been observing, gave a nod. "Time to gather your belongings. This afternoon I'll assist in scouting an apartment." Jasmine climbed the stairs in silence. An hour passed before my phone buzzed insistently. It was my cousin Marka. "You catch that, you see it yet." "See what?" "Your daughter-in-law's clip is exploding. Ruthie May, the spotlight's on you big time." I launched TikTok on my device. Jasmine's upload was already at 50,000 views, climbing swiftly. Remarks poured in non-stop. Impressive. She actually owned up to it. Rare to witness real accountability. Props to her. If only my son's wife showed this kind of grace. Unexpected turn. The in-laws the real star. But not all were kind. Pretty clip, but the harm's irreversible. Only saying sorry because she got busted. These creators and their staged melodrama for likes. Within 2 hours, it hit 100,000 views. Marka rang back. "'Cause mind if I share your perspective? Folks are curious. They crave the full picture. Your narrative deserves airtime." I wavered. Fame wasn't my goal. I had no desire to bear more of my world. Yet I considered all the elder women sidelined as nuisances, as loads to bear, as mere duties. "Go for it," I agreed, "but keep it kind, no bashing, stick to the facts." Marka moved fast. That very afternoon she posted her own video. She stood in her kitchen, donning her vibrant apron, her soothing timbre, the one that built her following, filling the frame. "Hey folks, today I'm sharing a real-life tale about someone I've known forever, my cousin Ruthie May." And she laid it out, skipping the private specifics, omitting complete identities, but capturing the heart of it. A bereaved woman who erected a home solo, who nurtured her boy through toil and tenderness, who embraced her daughter-in-law into her fold, who endured public scorn, who uncovered a scheme to claim her property, and who ultimately stood firm with grace and fairness. This tale is one of honor. Marcia continued, gazing straight into the lens. It's all about recognizing your value, refusing to let anybody, not even close relatives, treat you like something discardable. Her clip exploded even bigger than Jasmine's, racking up 1 million views in just 6 hours. The comments poured in like a flood that wouldn't quit. I teared up watching it. That's exactly what happened to my mom. My grandma faced the identical ordeal. Thanks for speaking up for her. Every mother-in-law merits honor. They're parents just like anyone else. We could use more tales like this about women who stand their ground, but the twist I never saw coming was the fallout that followed. Fellow influencers began responding to the footage. TikTok stars, Instagram users sharing their experiences with overlooked grandmas and moms, relatives exploiting situations, elderly ladies seizing back control. Honor Your Mother-in-Law turned into a viral hashtag. Dignity After 60 climbed the trends. Unintentionally, my personal account had sparked a wave. 3 days on, a journalist from a breakfast TV segment rang the doorbell. "Mrs. Jakes, we'd love to feature you. Your experiences are motivating countless folks." "I'm unsure," I replied, pausing. "No need to reveal your identity if you're uncomfortable. We could shoot from behind with a masked audio, or however suits you best. It's your words that matter. They're shifting dialogues nationwide." I mulled it over all afternoon. In the end, I agreed. They recorded the chat right in my den. Perched in my deep blue recliner, facing away from the lens, I chose to keep my tone natural since I owned nothing to hide. The host probed deeply. What it was like constructing the place solo, my reactions to the clip, the triggers behind clearing out their belongings, advice for others facing similar struggles. "I want them to know they're far from isolated," I responded, eyes fixed on the sun streaming through the pane. "Their value lies not in services rendered to others, but in their essence. Kindness doesn't equate to fading into the background, and reclaiming self-respect is never out of reach, no matter the years." The segment broadcasts the next Monday. It garnered 3 million views within the initial week. My phone buzzed nonstop with notes from far-off kin, local acquaintances, and classmates from 4 decades back. Yet the note that hit hardest came from a stranger. "Mrs. Jakes, I'm Patricia, age 72. For 8 years, I've stayed with my son and his spouse. They regard me precisely as you outlined, overlooked, handy only for chores and babysitting. Your narrative moved me to sob through the night. But today, I consulted an attorney. I'll reclaim my home. I'll reclaim my existence. You've shown me time hasn't run out. You've proven grandmas deserve joy, too." I cherished that note as a gem, grasping that every ache, every slight, every tough step had paid off, not solely for myself. It mattered for every Patricia out there, for every lady who'd felt her efforts rendered her unseen, for those convinced self-advocacy came too late. In the meantime, Jasmine had settled into a modest flat up north. She relocated with essentials only. The kids dropped by on weekends. She and Ethan began couples counseling, though neither could predict if their union would endure. But that fight wasn't mine anymore. I'd waged and triumphed in my own. 2 months in, the household settled into a fresher flow, fairer and steadier. Ethan rose at dawn to prepare meals 3 days weekly. The rest of the time, I handled it out of choice, not obligation. Saturdays, we prepared dinners side by side as the youngsters arranged the dishes. We'd charted duties on a board in the kitchen. Monday, Ethan tackles the loos, I handle dinner. Tuesday, I tidy the den, he cooks. Wednesday, joint meal prep. The kids pitch in on their spaces and onward. The space transformed from a solo load zone into a shared haven where all pitched in. At month's start, Ethan passed me an envelope containing $1,500. I stashed it in a dedicated account I'd set up for those funds. "Mom, that's too little," he'd protested initially. "Allow me to up it." "No, it's meant as a reminder. It signifies residing. Here's an earned opportunity, not an entitlement tied to accountability and regard." He'd inclined his head, at last grasping the point. The youngsters thrived amid this shift. Kyla opened up more. Sam gained assurance. Saturdays, I guided them through crafting yam pastries, tending the herb patch, and appreciating their blessings. "Grandma," Kyla wondered one evening as we worked pie crusts, "how come Mom doesn't stay with us now?" It was the query I'd anticipated. I knelt to meet her gaze, fingers dusted in flour. "Grown-ups err at times, sweetheart. And when those errors are major ones, it takes real effort to mend them. Your mother slipped up with me and with our whole family, but she's putting in the work to improve now. As for whether she'll return, that's uncertain. Could be, or maybe not. What I am certain of is that both you and your sibling will forever be cherished by your mom, your dad, and by me too. Do you feel more love for us since Mommy's not around?" She inquired with that pure, heartbreaking candor only kids have. "No, sweetheart, my affection for you was just as strong back then. The real shift is that these days I have room to express it without feeling constantly drained. She gave a little nod, like it all clicked perfectly for her. Kids often see things that clearly. Jasmine kept showing up on Sundays. She'd scoop up the kids for a trip to the playground, a cinema outing, or a meal somewhere fun. She'd have them home by 6 p.m. sharp. Early on, our run-ins felt awkward and strained. She'd pull up, grab the children, and dash off without so much as a glance my way. Over time, though, things started to shift. One Sunday, 3 months into this routine, Jasmine rapped on the door rather than just beeping from the driveway. I swung it open. "Mrs. Jakes," she greeted me. Her tone was gentler now, stripped of that old haughtiness. "Could we chat for a bit? The kids can hang out in the car." I stepped aside and invited her inside. We settled in the den. I in my deep blue recliner, her on a straight-backed seat I'd pulled from the kitchen table. "I need to express my gratitude," she started, holding up a palm to hush me as I opened my mouth. "Just hear me out, please." I agreed with a tilt of my head. "Thank you for holding me accountable, for refusing to let me stay that awful version of myself, for drawing lines when nobody else would." My hands were shaking a touch. I've been doing therapy sessions twice weekly on my own, and it's opened my eyes to so much. Like how I chased quick fixes every time, how I craved the path of least resistance, how I took advantage of folks without even noticing. "Jasmine," I began to say. "Let me wrap this up." She pressed on. I zipped it. "You never earned the mistreatment I put you through. Not a single bit of it. And the hardest truth is, for ages, I was blind to it all. Blind to my own harshness. Blind to how I twisted situations to suit me. I'd fooled myself into thinking I was clever, calculated, efficient. Really, I was just self-centered and unkind." A single tear traced down her face. "I'm not banking on your pardon, or on us rebuilding some family bond, but I had to let you know that your actions transformed everything for me. They made me face my reflection, and what stared back wasn't pretty. Now, I'm striving to become better, someone my kids can look up to." She rose to her feet. "That's it. I just had to share that." "Jasmine, hold on," I called as she neared the exit. She paused. "Come back and sit, please." She eased back into the seat, tentative. "I wasn't flawless myself," I admitted, catching the flicker of shock in her eyes. "I shrank down too much. I overextended. I watched my limits dissolve until they were gone, and that was no good on my end." "But you were only trying to be kind," she protested. "No, actually, I was dodging conflict. I feared that enforcing rules would push my son away, that a firm no would mean losing their affection. So I agreed to it all until I'd given away every last piece of myself." I drew in a steadying breath. "You exploited that weakness. True, but I permitted it to happen, and owning that is on me. That doesn't make it okay." "No, it doesn't excuse a thing, but it does shed light on our path here. And if we're aiming to mend things as a family, not the old way, but as folks connected through grandkids, we've got to face the full truth." Jasmine dabbed at her eyes. "Do you believe you could ever let go of it all against me?" I paused, really mulling it over. "I'm not sure," I replied truthfully. Letting go isn't simple. It's not like hitting a button to turn it on. It's gradual. But here's what I can say. There's no bitterness left in me toward you. I'm content with the past because it restored what I'd misplaced, my self-respect. I get that. And one last point, I continued. I've noticed your recent time with the kids. More involved, more focused. That says a lot about your growth. It shows you're committed to evolving." She dipped her head, words failing her. "Stick with it, for their sake and yours." Jasmine got up then. She approached and, unexpectedly, wrapped me in a hug, short but heartfelt. "Thank you," she murmured, for it all, the tough parts included. As she departed with the children, I lingered in the den, pondering. Had I truly released her from blame or just shed the resentment? It might be a mix. Maybe true release isn't erasing memories or acting like it never occurred. Maybe it's choosing that the hurt no longer rules you. Twilight was settling gently across the garden. I brewed a mug of coffee and stepped onto the deck. I perched on my stone seat beneath the citrus tree I'd set in the ground 37 years back. Its limbs sagged with ripe, glossy, golden fruits. My mind wandered over the sequence of events, the recording, the shame, uncovering the scheme, the relocation, the showdown, the breakup, the parting ways, the tale exploding online. That's when it hit me. I'd reclaimed more than just my home. I'd reclaimed my voice. For so many years, I'd stayed quiet. I'd tolerated it all. I'd given in. I'd convinced myself that love required fading away. But that was no longer my truth. Love involved setting firm limits. Love required honoring yourself equally to those around you. Love meant recognizing when to stand your ground and when to release. My phone buzzed, a text from a stranger's number. "Mrs. Jakes, I'm Elena. I caught your interview a couple of months back. Today I put my house in my own name. My son can't hold that threat over me anymore, the home I purchased myself. You've shown me it's never too late to reclaim what's rightfully yours. God bless." I grinned. I filed away the note alongside the dozens of similar ones that had poured in over these past months. Tales from Patricius and Elenas, Rosas and Maras, women who'd drawn courage from my journey to craft their own. That was the real legacy. Not the $450,000 property, but the assurance that my existence had mattered beyond just me. Ethan stepped onto the patio. "Mom, everything all right?" "Absolutely, kiddo, better than all right." He settled beside me on the seat. "Remember what today marks?" he queried. It wasn't a birthday for anyone, not a special date. No, what was it? "It's been precisely 3 months since the shift, since you regained your house, since I got my mom back," he said, clasping my hand. "These past 3 months have been the toughest of my life. The split, the counseling, uncovering who my partner truly was. Yet they've also been the greatest because I reconnected with you, the authentic you. Not the version who shrank herself, but the fighter you've always been. The one I simply hadn't learned to recognize." "Ethan, hold on, let me speak," I said with a smile. "You remind me of Jasmine when you interrupt like that." We both chuckled. "I need you to hear this. I'm so proud of you, not only for your actions, but for handling them with grace, without needless wreckage, even offering Jasmine a shot at making amends." "Everyone merits a do-over," I replied. "True, but not all sees it. I believe Jasmine's giving it a go. Our relationship might not endure. Who knows, I doubt it will. But at least we're being real now, which beats the cozy deception we once called home." We sat quietly, gazing as the sun dipped below the tree line. "Mom, I've got something here," Ethan announced, pulling an envelope from his jacket. "What's inside? Go ahead, look." The contents were official papers. I scanned them thoroughly. It was Ethan's formal renunciation of any stake in the house, a declaration affirming it belonged solely to me, with no intent to pursue it through inheritance or otherwise during my lifetime. "Ethan, this isn't necessary. It is for me. I want you clear. I'm here because you welcome it, not because it's owed. And should you ever choose to reclaim full privacy, I'll step away, no questions asked." My eyes stung with unshed tears, but I composed myself. "You're my boy. This place will forever be yours too. Still, thank you for grasping it all. Thank you for showing me the essence of manhood. It's less about safeguarding your ease and more about shielding those you cherish, even if it demands facing harsh realities." Later that evening, once the kids were tucked in, I retreated to my room, the primary suite, my space with my furnishings, my mirror, my glimpse of the garden. I pulled out the worn journal I'd filled with notes across the decades and jotted, "Tonight, I grasped that real riches lie not in holdings, but in what you refuse to surrender. Don't let them steal your voice, your self-respect, your claim to your own existence. For when you reclaim those, No dwelling, no fortune, no security rivals the serenity of feeling complete. I shut the journal, flicked off the lamp, and drifted into sound sleep, free of bad dreams, free of doubts, free of dread. At last, after 68 years, I'd absorbed the vital truth. You're not aged out. You're not irrelevant. You're not unseen. You're a woman who's erected legacies through sheer effort, who've poured your soul into loving, who've stumbled yet risen, who've endured shame yet emerged unbroken, and who ultimately demonstrates that grandmas aren't fragile porcelain. We're forged from iron. If this narrative stirred you, hear this. You're not isolated. Be it your own struggle, someone close enduring it, or just these lines resonating, hold on to this. Dignity can always be restored, no matter the weight. Boundaries can always be drawn. Your true self can always be asserted, to yourself and the world. Age doesn't matter, nor the years of concession, nor the moments they've rendered you overlooked. You stay intact, priceless, and strong. Share in the comments where you're tuning in from. Did you connect? Can you relate to any part of what Ruthie May experienced? I'd be thrilled to hear your own tale as well. If this narrative stirs something deep within, hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected. On this platform, we feature authentic accounts from genuine women determined not to fade into the background. After all, our experiences count, our perspectives hold weight, and above everything, we ourselves are vital. Catch you with the upcoming tale, folks, and keep in mind, grandmas never give up. Grandmas take back what's theirs. Enjoyed what I shared. If you stuck around to the finish, leave a 1 in the comments below. Loved it. Show some love by thumbs-upping the video or tossing in a little donation. My channel's packed with more personal journeys just like this, so don't forget to hit subscribe and dive in. I've pinned a couple of fresh narratives right here on display that folks rave about. Appreciate you joining me. Until next time, all my best.